If you have some coffee
You're good.
or soda, sorry we didn't get cups in the store. So they're clean. Cool. Yeah, if you just want to sit. Thanks.
All right, cool. So I think I set everything up properly. We'll know as I go through the lecture. But yeah, so oh shoot, I forgot one more thing. Instagram Live. We need to go on Instagram Live too. Gonna do that real quick.
This is how you make content.
Social
Yep.
media marketing.
Important part.
Social media.
Because from a 90-minute lecture, I might get 20 different clips that I can then use for social media. So anytime that I do a show or teach a class or anything like that, I try to get video of it for expressly for the purpose of making content. So yeah, I'm on my Instagram right now. Create a live. We'll just call it YouTube. All right. Cool. So now I have an Instagram live that's facing me. Cool. Actually, we'll let it face the screen. All right, cool. All right, class is in session. So once again, my name is DJ Grumble. I'm a music producer. Currently doing that for a living. A little bit about my background. I grew up in Boston. There's the classic family picture from the early '90s. Mom had the shoulder pads. I had the knit sweater. Very '90s nostalgia there. I had a classical piano education. I started taking piano lessons in elementary school. Hated it. I had to give piano recitals and dreaded it. I had this Russian piano teacher. Her name was Mrs. Maranovich, and if I didn't practice, she would be like, "Oh, I will hang myself from chandelier. You do not practice. You're killing me." And yeah, so hated piano lessons, but I think it gave me a foundation, right, for music later on. Also, my dad, big fan of jazz music, and he plays the trumpet, so I'd often hear him playing some of his favorite songs, like Miles Davis and John Coltrane and stuff like that. So that was also like an early musical influence, and my dad had a nice stereo system and record player and records, so um, then I'm in school. My friends are burning CDs. This is back when you burned CDs, right? To share them with your friends, and I'm hearing music I've never heard before by like Linkin Park and Limp Bizkit, and there were specifically a couple songs that were crossovers essentially, where hip hop artists had collaborated with rock artists, and it introduced me to hip hop, and I was like, what's that sound? And so one of them was this one by Linkin Park, and this came out in I think 2001. Oh, do we have to turn up the volume on that?
There's a knob right there. Should.
This one?
Yeah.
No.
Let me make sure I'm not muted here.
It's coming to this right here.
Oh, I see. Oh, so wait, is this the input or the output?
That would be an input idea.
Wait a minute. Um, yeah, I can hear something. Yeah. Oh, I see. I see. I see. I see. This needs to be on. There we go. Yeah. So I heard this. I was like, so yeah, I heard that and I was like, how are they making those noises? Like, I really want to do that, right? And then the other, influential um, record was this one with Limp Bizkit, and it was actually a crossover with Method Man and Fred Durst, and it was produced by DJ Premier. To the cross, in the land of the Lord, standing up, I'm sideways, I'm blazing up the path, running on the highways of wrath. Choked up by the smoke in the charcoal. A lot of stamps and brands be like a barcode. So yeah, I was like, how do I make beats that sound like that? Like especially at the end, when we're scratching. So like I heard that beat and I was like, I want to make that. Like that's what I want to do. So this is we're talking early 2000s. I'm just getting exposed to the elements of hip hop, and I'm like, okay, I really want to be involved in this. And so my dad bought me like a $20 like crappy turntable from a flea market. It had like a classical record that was already on it, and I just started experimenting with it and like scratching, wondering why like it didn't sound good, because I didn't know what I was doing, and like the turntable I was using at the time was not designed to be scratched with, and like the needle is like jumping all over the place, so I had to tape like pennies to the needle so it stays in place while I'm scratching, etc. But that was like my entry. I was like, okay, yeah, like the scratching thing, this is cool. Like, so I got a turntable and a mixer, and that was sort of like my first equipment, right? And then I started making beats, from my dad's record collection and from records that I bought at like thrift stores, like Salvation Army, Goodwill, stuff like that, and trying to build that sound that I'm hearing. I'm like, how do I emulate that sound? Like, how do these guys get it to sound like that? They had all these instruments like flutes and strings and trumpets, and it turns out what they were doing is finding essentially these very small snippets from old music, right, and then turning it into new beats. So I started making beats. I was really active on this website that's now defunct. It's called undergroundhiphop.com, and there was a producer forum where people would share advice and sample packs and things like that, and debate over who's the best producer, things of that nature. And there was also every week there was a beat thread where you would post your beats and leave feedback for the other people, right? And that it was like harsh. Like this was like the early days of the internet. It's the Wild West. Like people would just straight up tell you your beats are garbage and give up. Like there was no sugarcoating anything. So like I would post a beat onto a beat thread and be like nervous, and be like checking the replies to make sure that people thought my beat was dope. And yeah, sometimes I'd post a beat and people would be like, yeah, this is ass, and like, well, okay, I guess I learned something. But I was having some success. I was making beats, that I was like, this sounds good to me. It sounds like it could be like somebody could rap on it. So, and I had other friends who were also into making beats, and we would send our beats to each other, and I was getting good feedback. So I started putting my beats into albums for like people to rap over, like different local rappers and friends of mine. We would have freestyle sessions, so it made sense. Like, why don't I just make the series for freestyling? It's called Freestyle Tools. So I just put all like the best beats to freestyle on into like an album. So that was like '07. Like I sort of conceptualized making instrumental albums specifically for like rappers, right, to use. And also now defunct website .piff, like I was on there uploading my tapes and starting to gain some fans, right? Like my first tape you know, maybe downloaded a handful of times, and then the next one had like 100 downloads, and then the next one had like 1,000 downloads, which to me at the time was like, oh, holy shit, it's a lot of people. And I had like maybe one or 2,000 YouTube subscribers. So like the stuff I was posting at the time, you know, kind of sounded like this.
Open sesame.
Kind of spooky, like Wu-Tang style beat. You can hear the crackles because it was from a vinyl. You can see down here, that was uploaded 16 years ago. You know, so this is what I was doing back 16 years ago. I was still in college at the time. You know, people are freestyling in the comments when you look down. So I had like a little community, and yeah,
You know Felly?
yeah, I produced for him.
So that's your beat.
Which one?
I don't know the title of this like.
There's one called,
It's the same exact beat.
yeah, there's one I produced for him called Blue. It's called Blue Velour. Yeah, I think this was a Felly song too. Yeah. Yeah, so me and Felly have worked a bunch.
He gives me like a Scooby-Doo type beat.
Yeah. It's like spooky skeleton type beat. You know, I figured since it's Halloween, you know, pull out a spooky beat. But yeah, like I had like a little community going, and like people were, you know, waiting on me to drop beats. So I was like, okay, I can actually kind of go somewhere with this, right? So that's like 2007, 2008. You know, YouTube is the big thing at the time, and Dat Piff. In the early 2010s is when I first started getting exposed to like real like industry people. So I had started working with artists in the underground scene. One artist I was working with a lot was Tayyab Ali. By this time I'm like a senior in college. And he belonged to a Visionary Music Group at the time, which Logic was also signed to. And he went on tour. I DJ'd a bunch of his tour dates. Like we opened up for Mac Miller one time. I got to meet Mac Miller, which was incredible. Yeah, that's me like setting up before the concert. Like this is when Mac Miller was still just like an underground rapper. You know what I mean? So yeah, I started meeting more people at like higher levels in the music industry, just you know because my beats had started to gain some traction online on YouTube, and I was getting attention from you know underground rappers. So that was specifically this song I dropped with Tayyab Ali, Keystone State of Mind. This isn't the original YouTube video, but at the time it got like 15,000 streams like in the first night, and like that was like the most streams I'd ever seen at the time. I was like, oh man, I made it. This is crazy. Like,
It's me, like I'm doing fine. Chill up on my Keystone State of Mind. Yeah, it's going on some shit. Yo, man, I don't know you niggas nothing. I came from nothing.
so he was 18 at the time that this dropped, and I was 21, you know, senior in college. And that was my first sort of exposure to, you know, working in the industry beyond just like putting out my own stuff. You know, now I'm working with other rappers, I'm DJing for them, producing beats for them, etc. Still not much money in it, you know. I sell a beat for 50 or 100 bucks here and there. You know, for a show, I might get paid 100 bucks, 200 bucks. You know, I'm not making money off of it really. You know, just money for beer essentially at the time. Four Locos were big. That the original Four Loco formula. Yeah. Yeah. I actually had to quit drinking. Believe it or not. You can't just like keep drinking, binge drinking over and over. It turns out without damaging your health. Sucks. But yeah. Anyways. So. Yeah. But yeah, so it also in the mid 2010s, SoundCloud came out, and you can kind of see a trend now where I'm sort of hopping on every, you know, platform as it springs up, right? So I'm staying aware of like where the audience is, right? And so I see, you know, SoundCloud is getting big, everybody's on SoundCloud, so I'm like, okay, I gotta get on SoundCloud. And so I started just doing the same thing on YouTube that I was doing on YouTube, just did it on SoundCloud. Just keep posting beats as frequently as possible. You know, like at a certain point, I was posting like a beat every day. You know, a lot of just unfinished snippets, but I was really using it just to, you know, see what people thought, right? Like some of them would do really well, and I'd be like, okay, that's a banger. You know, maybe I should send this to this rapper or whatever. But like at this time, SoundCloud wasn't monetized, right? So I'm not making any money off of it. But by 2015, things had kind of snowballed, and I had gained like 10,000 followers on SoundCloud. And what really drove that, so I made all my beats free to download, and YouTubers started using my beats and using them in the background, and just kind of through word of mouth, and it just kind of exploded. And a lot of big YouTubers, I'll give an example here. Her name's Jen. She's a beauty YouTuber. Oh, we got the ad.
And today I am finally filming
So,
the house.
you know, this video has, 4 million views, right? And I did the little beat at the beginning. But at a certain point, she was so big that she was paying me $250 a month just to send her like a pack of like a dozen beats, you know, to use for her YouTube videos. So I was working with a lot of different creators, and like more financial opportunities came because people would be like, hey, could you like, you know, make me a custom intro, and you know, I could set a price for that. Still nothing major. We're still talking in the hundreds of dollars, you know, with odd gigs here and there, you know, because at this time I'm in graduate school. I'm getting my PhD in chemistry, and so I'm pretty much either in the lab or I'm at home making beats, and really just doing the beats because I like it, you know, not for money. But then with the SoundCloud taking off, then I started getting major placements. So my first major placement happened in 2015. I had been making music with Ari Lennox independently at the time, and we were just dropping it on each other's SoundClouds. And she's an R&B singer, and she's a DC native. And one day in 2015, I got a call from J. Cole's manager. And he's like, hey man, like we love the music that you're doing with Ari Lennox. Like we wanted to use the song Backseat and remix it and put it on the Revenge of the Dreamers 2 mixtape. And I was like, dude, sounds good. Hell yeah. And from that point, I learned how to get paid in the industry. I'll get to that in a second. But Ari Lennox ended up signing to Dreamville, and I produced a bunch of different album cuts and singles for her. One of the albums that I contributed to with the song New Apartment has gone gold, so that's my first like official gold certification. And then another group I was working with, Surfaces, who is like a pop duo, one of their songs blew up on TikTok in like 2019, and they got signed, and that resulted in 3 of the songs I did for them now have gold certification. We're just waiting on the RIAA to officially like certify it. You have to pay them to certify your music, which I find is insane. So like if the label is labels don't like to spend money, right? So the label will drag their feet. We don't need to certify it. You know what I mean? I had to pay for my own plaque. They only will give the plaque to like the primary artist. If you just like produced on one of the songs, like you got to pay for your own plaque. The label's not gonna pay for a plaque for everybody involved in the project. Like you got to buy your own. It was like $450, but it was worth it. Yeah. It was the SoundCloud led to more opportunities just due to, you know, my music kind of going viral on there. So this is sort of overall stats as of currently. All songs I've produced have generated close to 500 million streams. You can see like the top ones are with Surfaces. The top 2 have over 100 million streams. 75 million is considered a gold certification by the RIAA. It's equivalent to 500,000 sales. Wild. But you know, it sounds all great. Like, wow, you got a gold plaque. You know, your music was on, you know, major releases. Is it worth it to kind of chase these big placements? So yes and no. Definitely it gives you access to greater opportunities, right? Because you have those sort of credits and those accolades, right? Like, oh, I have a gold record, right? Um, but just in my personal experience, unless you produce a song that like goes to radio or is basically a smash hit, um, you're not really going to earn like a life-changing amount of money just from like getting one song on like a big artist album if it's not like a radio song. Just, for full financial transparency, for all the beats I've done for major labels, the advance, pretty much the upfront fee I get is anywhere from like $3,000 to $5,000 per beat. And then every quarter I get paid performance royalties and mechanical royalties, which maybe comes out to 200 per song per quarter. So, when I was still in graduate school, $3,000 for a beat, I was like, wow, that's the most money I've made in one transaction, right? That was like, fuck yeah. But, now making a living off of music, it's like, I would need to get, 20, 30 placements a year, to make that sustainable, just living off of placements, right? So, and there's also the fact that, major label placement, there's so many other personnel involved that you're only taking home, some of my take home cuts may only be 5 or 10% on a record, right? After all the other people get paid. Oftentimes the label takes like 50% off the top of like all the publishing. So that's where I need to discuss Spotify now. So in the background while all this was happening, I was taking my music from SoundCloud that was performing well and putting it on Spotify. Just like, let's see what happens, you know what I mean? Because, I saw that now Spotify is becoming a big source of music for people. It has a big audience. So starting in 2015, I basically took my best performing music on SoundCloud and put it on Spotify. They're using a self-serve distributor. So you guys have heard of like TuneCore, DistroKid. I was using one called RootNote, and they're based in the UK. But it's the same kind of principle. You upload your MP3s, your art, and they publish it onto, Apple Music, iTunes, Spotify, all that stuff. And yeah, I wasn't really expecting to make any money off this either. But over time, it just sort of snowballed. And, in 2017, I hit my first 10,000 monthly listeners. 2018, I hit 100,000. 2021, I was up to 200,000. So I just, again, was doing the same strategy, just releasing a lot of music frequently and consistently, and my Spotify listenership was growing. Caveat, my music production style is sampling. So you have to do your due diligence, right? If you're taking something that's sampled and making a profit off of it, right, and putting it on streaming services, you have to know where it came from, right? Because it could come back to bite you. So, initially, I'm uploading these songs into my distributor, and I'm getting emails back like, rejected, rejected. We detected copyrighted material. So I'm like, fuck. So it limited, what I could put onto streaming services because, some of those samples I used were, copyrighted material, right? So you need to, if you're using sampling, I'll let you guys in on like, the best resources and stuff like that. But like, TrackLib is a resource that I use heavily. It's essentially just a library of old music, but it's pre-licensed. So, you just pay like a flat percentage. Like if you used 10 seconds of the sample, then you pay like 10%, to the creator of the sample. Or there's lots of royalty-free sources like Splice, for example, is a big one. I'm sure you guys have heard of that. The Library of Congress has like royalty-free audio that you can download. Anything that was recorded before 1926 is no longer under copyright. So there's ways that you can find source material that isn't violating somebody else's intellectual property. But that's just something important I have to note. Going from SoundCloud to Spotify, and like YouTube to Spotify. In the beginning, like if you're just starting out and having fun, like by all means sample whatever, you know what I mean? Like it's it's something you need to worry about more so like when you're trying to monetize, right? But if you're just, if you're just having fun, like doing mashups and remixes and stuff like that, like the 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 intellectual property side is something you will be more relevant when you're trying to monetize your music. So just wanted to make that point there. Also, so my Spotify was growing, and so I was also using this to, what I had learned from Spotify at this point to discover and help new artists. So I have like sort of a loose association of people. We call ourselves Nanostorm Records, but it's basically just all dudes that I met like mostly via the internet, via like SoundCloud or via email, and we all like meet up once a year. We rent an Airbnb and we all just like cook up and like just have a good time. And so a lot of these guys like this guy here with a Nintendo shirt, Grant, he came to the first beat camp in LA. He drove his mom's minivan like 6 hours and like slept on the floor because he saw the announcement on Instagram, and I was really impressed with his beats. And so since then we've collaborated on a bunch of stuff. Like he just hit his first like 3 million plays on Spotify. But so like what I've learned, I've been able to successfully sort of help others follow that sort of program or that approach, and they've seen success as well, been able to achieve multi-millions of streams on Spotify. So there's not any one particular formula that's going to work specifically for everybody, but there are obviously best practices and things that you can do to up your chances, right? So 2022 to present, Spotify kind of took over my life. So by the end of 2022, my Spotify page was at 300,000 monthly listeners. I was making enough, from placements and from Spotify that I could consider just doing music full time. And at that time, I was working at a Fortune 500 company. Really burned out. Had been doing it for 5 years at that point as an industrial research scientist, and I just didn't like it. I was kind of burned out by the Fortune 500 company culture, and secretly in the back of my head, I had always been wondering, like, dang, when is this music just gonna start making enough that I can, just quit my job? And that happened actually. So I took the dive in the beginning of 2023, and I went on a crazy Spotify run. I started uploading like every week a new beat to Spotify. My monthly listeners went up to like 700,000, which is insane. And now I'm hovering about 325,000, which, to give you an idea, well, also another milestone that I achieved this year was I put out my first vinyl album. And this was basically, because I had, at this point, I was relying on Spotify for so much of my income, and I saw, the popularity of vinyl, resurging. I think 2023 was the first year that vinyl, sold more than like CDs and any other physical media since like the 90s or the 80s. So I decided to get into the physical merchandise game and, sort of diversify my income streams, right? Because, as a producer, there's a lot you can do besides just being the producer or being the artist, right? You can sell merchandise, you can sell courses, you can sell sample packs, right? So also, it's been a period of diversifying sort of my activities, right? And, trying to leverage all my skills to bring in as much income as possible from different sides, you know what I mean? So I'm going to give you guys a little math breakdown here, and I'm also going to steal some Coke just because I'm thirsty. But so as you can see on the screen, so per 1,000 streams, Spotify pays you about $4,800. That number's gone down, but that's a ballpark estimate. It depends on the region. So like streams are worth more if they come from like the United States so which are called like tier one markets versus if they come from like South America or Central America. It there's a different like tiers of how much those streams are worth, and conversely how much it costs to advertise in those countries. But anyways, so I didn't know this for a long time. I thought that top number, the sound recording number that came from DistroKid, and RouteNote, my distributors, was all the money that I was owed for my music. Turns out that's not the case. So even if it has no lyrics in it, even if it's just a beat on Spotify, which is what most of my music is, there's actually a mechanical and performance royalty segment to that total amount for the stream. So what I was doing was I was leaving that money on the table, and the really sinister thing is that this money gets pooled, and if it's left unclaimed, it actually goes to the major record labels like UMG and Warner and Sony, and goes back to them, and it's like a free money pool for them. So for like almost a decade, I wasn't claiming those royalties, and unknowingly I'm like funding major labels while getting nothing in return. So I finally got hip, and there's a lot of gurus online that'll tell you like different things about, oh, you need to sign up for this, this, and this. You need these 4 things to collect like everything that you're owed for music that you put out. One is your distributor, obviously, because they host your music, right, and they put it onto Spotify, Apple Music, etc. BMI or ASCAP, either one is fine. You can only be a member of one, but they are domestic performance royalty collectors. So they collect royalties on your behalf, like when your music is performed, like at a venue, when it's performed at like a live concert, and a portion of the Spotify streams goes to performance royalties as well. Same for mechanical royalties. There's a collective called the Mechanical Licensing Collective. You can sign up with them directly to collect those, or you can sign up for Song Trust, and they collect mechanicals as well as the foreign equivalents of BMI and ASCAP. So for like foreign performances of your song, if it was played overseas on Spotify, or it played overseas like in a coffee shop or something like that. And then lastly, Sound Exchange, they collect any revenue that your music generated by plays on SiriusXM or Pandora. So yeah, that's how you get it all, and you don't leave any of the money on the table. So, full financial transparency, currently I'm doing about 1.3 million streams a month on Spotify, so multiply that number, that's about how much I make per month. And then quarterly, from BMI I might get a check for $1,500 to $2,000. So that's sort of like my base income, that's passive, that's just coming from streams. So like fiscal year 2023, my total music income was about $80,000. This fiscal year, my total music income with the deal I just signed will be about 120, 130,000. So yeah, it's totally possible, but I don't want to mislead you guys, because the competition is insane out there right now. The digital streaming platforms like Spotify are becoming increasingly algorithmically driven, sort of like you see with IG and TikTok, where it used to be on Facebook or Instagram, like you follow people and then it just shows you the post of who you follow, like in chronological order. Now it's all algorithm based, so the social media site is serving you what it thinks you want to see, based on what its algorithm detects based on your past viewing habits or past listening habits. So what that's caused is now artists such as myself are now having to chase sort of what the algorithm wants versus what do the fans want. So the future holds a lot of uncertainty because things are changing so rapidly. Like even just in the last year, like Spotify, Instagram, TikTok have made so many different changes to their algorithm, and it's hard to keep up with them, because it feels like you're constantly having to try to beat the algorithm and find the new hack, to get more plays, get more streams, right? So it's like a cat and mouse game. And you can see sort of through my whole lecture, I've always been following, where is the audience and how can I put my music out frequently and consistently in front of that audience. That's some good coke. Oh yeah, and then the other thing. So this headline. So this came out in 2023. About 80% of Spotify artists have less than 50 monthly listeners. So the vast majority of music that goes onto that platform, like nobody even listens to. I think as of like 2024, it's like 100,000 new songs get uploaded to Spotify every day. Which leads me to my final slide, stuff I learned so you don't have to. Well, first and foremost, like none of this matters if you're not making good music that you would want to listen to yourself. Like that was pretty much my only focus for, many years, was just sort of how do I make beats that sound like, my idols at the time, DJ Premier, Jay Dilla, The Alchemist, right? And, it was only over time, with consistency, I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard about like the 10,000 hour rule, where to truly master something, you have to put in 10,000 hours. That's like 416 days if you just do the 10,000 hours back to back. So split into like a reasonable schedule, we're talking, several years that you may have to be putting in work for zero reward or recognition. And yeah, pivoting quickly when something isn't working. Like if I don't feel creative, I don't force myself to sit down and make beats. Like I'll go take a walk or like go do something else. Like pivoting quickly if something isn't working for you will help you out a lot in the long run. Cause yeah, like hammering your head on something like over and over just sucks. But yeah, the biggest thing I can say and biggest piece of advice I can give is to like manage your expectations, because the attention span of the general public, especially in the TikTok era, is fried. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, like there's so much competition for attention, because really now we're in an attention economy, right? Everything is algorithmically driven, and all of these companies like TikTok, IG, YouTube, Spotify, they want you glued to their platform as long as possible, right? And how they do that is with an algorithm that, tries to figure you out and wants to keep you glued to the device as long as possible on their platform. So it's basically put creators in a lot of competition with each other, because you are competing with literally everybody else for attention, right? So that brings me back, to my very first point, which is making good music that you yourself would want to listen to. Like that's how you stand out. Like in the sea of all these people, uploading music to Spotify, ultimately it's on you to figure out what makes you stand out and like what's your niche, right? And I happen to find a particular niche like based on a particular sound, and like I've just stuck with that the whole time, and it's like worked for me, right? And whatever tools you guys use, whether it's like Logic, Ableton, FL Studio, like just basically find what works best for you personally and like drill down on that. And you may find what you're best at, may not be like what your dream goal is. Like, maybe your dream goal is to be the artist on stage, like under the spotlights with all the ice, and, flexing in a private jet, right? But there's so many adjacent things you can do, right? I feel a lot of people are spotlight focused and like, I have to be like, famous and be in the spotlight. But yeah, there's so many adjacent things you can do, that are not necessarily, being the artist, right? Like kind of like what I'm doing now. Like I'm sharing my experience and like teaching, and I could potentially I could go on this track if I wanted to. I could do like a lecture tour, right? And so yeah, like I strongly encourage you guys to also, brainstorm and figure out what you're good at, adjacent to music, right? In any way that you can make yourself useful. Because I lean heavily on other musicians, right? Like I'm a sample-based musician. So like if I have a melody in my head, like I have, dozens of musicians that I work with. And like I can make like a rough version of the melody. I'll send it to my guy, like one of my boys, like Kobe Banks, and then he'll flesh it out for me and make it sound how I want, right? So, the power of the collaboration cuts both ways. Like you can make yourself useful to others and also find other people, who can fill gaps in your skill set. Um, like one of the questions I get a lot from rappers is like, oh, can you record me, right? Because they assume that I make beats. I'm also an engineer, but like I don't know anything about engineering at all. So anytime somebody asks me like, hey, can I record this with you? I always, I have an engineer that I refer them to, a couple different guys, that I like their work and they're my go-to guys. So yeah. Thank you. That's essentially the end of the lecture. Um, I'm sorry, Jen, that we froze your face like that. So yeah, I will now show you the mystique of Player Pro, which is the software that I use to make beats. This is the original CD that came with it from like 2001. And I still use the same software. So bear with me for 1 sec while we switch over.
Cookies are good.
Yes.
Yeah, go for it.
You can see it? Nice. Um, grab my mouse. So the first thing you might notice when you look at this screen here is we're running on this computer Mac OS 10.6.8. I don't know what it's currently at. I think it's like at Mac OS 10.14 or something, or 15 now. But the software I use only works with Mac OS 10.6 or earlier. So we'll get into it real quick. Just gonna make sure my audio works here. But yeah, you can already tell it looks kind of crazy. Make sure I have this right.
Oh yeah.
All right, just making sure we had audio from the computer there. Yeah, so this is the software I use. It's called Player Pro. It's basically single-handedly coded by this guy named Antoine Rosset from France. And yeah, this has not been updated, I think, since like 2002 or 2003. And the lineage of the software is actually dates back to the days of the Amiga in the late 80s and early 90s. So this was mainly used as a a platform for making video game music, but it works quite well for sampling. So I'm just gonna make a new beat right now. And how this works is, it's a multi-track sequencer. So this is a sequencer window. You have an instruments list where you import all your samples, your drum sounds, your bass sounds, etc. And you have a pattern list where you're going to arrange your song into patterns, and then you have a partition list where you're actually going to, sequence your song. So I'll kind of show you how this all goes together. So for the first exercise, I'll show you how I was originally doing it back in the days. So, I go to record stores and just pick up stuff that looks cool. That's noisy. You got Rendezvous and Rio. All right, this one looks pretty cool. These guys are so cool, they don't even have the name of the band on the cover. This is like some, I don't even know, this is like some psychedelic rock from the 80s, maybe the early 90s. We got Persuasive Percussion. This has some really interesting drum sounds on it. DeGarmin and Key. This was a Christian rock group from the 80s. You can see this guy freaking just shredding it on the guitar here. So let me check these guys out.
Good choice.
So yeah, I mean, really what I would do, I just go to the Salvation Army and, spend, at that time you get records for like 50 cents each, and then just pretty much just listen through them. I like the string. Okay. That sounds interesting. I'm gonna plug my MacBook in for a second. Ooh. Alright, that sounds very majestic. So yeah, I'll basically just spin the record back to the place I want to take it. Then I'm going to record from my built-in input. I like to record at 44/100 hertz. That's 16-bit 44/100 is just standard CD quality. Can't go wrong with it. Let's make sure that we have signal going into this bad boy. Here. There we go. Now you can see the signal here. I'm going to record it. So yeah, here, I'm just recording sampling from the turntable.
Two more.
That's a good recording. We have a good signal to noise ratio. Generally, when recording things, you want to be sort of as close, to the limit as possible without clipping. That minimizes the background hum relative to your music. But I had an idea because I think this would sound dope sped up. So I'm gonna hit 45 on this. I'm gonna speed it up and then record it. Then it gets goofy. Okay, so there we go. Oh wow, I just recorded that through my microphone instead of the. That's embarrassing. Well, we're gonna do it again. Now we got it. So yeah, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to chop the sample. Oh dear. That's better. All right. So yeah, the nice thing about Player Pro is essentially you can just like copy as many copies of your recording as you want. And let's say, I want to grab it here. A lot of times what I like to do is leave a little bit before like the sample actually starts because it gives you a little breathing room, or I call swing, where you can always cut away more from the beginning, but you can't like add more back, right? But you'll see what I mean in a second. And I don't know if you can see what I'm doing here, but on my keyboard, the keyboard here serves as like my keyboard. So like G is middle C. So yeah, you can go up and down the scale, using whatever sound you have. Where was the one actually cut? Cut that. So now I'm going to load some drums. So for this demo, I'm going to be using drums, and I'll also give you guys some links to like some of my favorite drum packs. Lakey Inspired is a producer I like a lot, and I pretty much have his packs memorized, so I'll like type the name of the kick that I know I want already. Or Decap also makes really good drums as well. So I'm gonna like use this kick from Decap just because I know it's a good one.
And those are your engineers that made those beats.
No, so these kicks, all these are just like sample packs that I bought, right?
Okay.
So the majority of my drums just come from different sample packs. There's a lot of free ones too. I'll give you guys the links at the end as well. But there's like a wealth of drums that you can use for your beats. And yeah, you'll kind of see as I put this beat together, but a lot of beat making is really just sound selection and placement. Whether you're recording, whether you're composing or using samples, it's all about sort of where the sounds are in time, in relation to each other. So I'm gonna import a couple more drum sounds. Again, these are just names of sounds that I memorized that I like. Let's see, yellow hat is a good. That's a good like little hat. But again, like every sound that you load in, you can edit. You can work with the waveform. Let's see. I also want to import a snare. Let's go with the W snare. That's a good one. And a lot of times, the pitching of the drums, I don't just use it at the pitch that I import it at. Like a lot of like this snare, for example, I think it sounds better pitched down like 5 semitones, so like here or here instead of here at the native pitch, for example. Same with a lot of kicks. Sometimes I'll move them down a little bit to get a little bit more low end. And a lot of people ask me, let's say, how do you know it's not going to clip, right? And generally what I do is mix in headphones and just kind of go by ear. Like if it clips in your headphones, it's generally going to clip, on somebody's speakers, and that's when you know that you're pushing your drum sounds like too loud. But how I do it in this program, it's sort of like an Excel spreadsheet. So each of these is a channel. When I first started using the software, I thought that the channel, and this is your mixer that gives you an overview of all your channels and what they're doing. I thought 1 and 2 were like left and right, but it just turns out that default, they're just panned alternately for some reason. So when I started making out beats, I always started out by doubling these sounds, because I thought that's what you're supposed to do. I thought this was the left and right. And then usually what I'll do is I'll double them again, and it's usually a little bit too loud. You might hear it clip. And these are good speakers, so it's not going to clip. But yeah, a lot of times what I'll end up having to do is, do a little waveform work, just to back off the kick a little bit if it's like, too rumbly in the mix, and you can do that really simply. So this DAW has a lot of basic tools built into it. You can do like a fade. Doing a fade on a kick is a good way to sort of reduce its intensity. Sometimes what I'll do is like fade it from like 95 to 50. Still looks like the same kick drum, but all I've done is just taken down the intensity a little bit. And then usually I do the drums first as sort of like a template, so then I can line up the beat, or the sample, right, with the drums. So the drums are sort of like my metronome at first, and then once the beat gets going, then I'll add more to the drums and like, add little fills and stuff like that. But right now, I'm just gonna put in a really basic pattern. And actually, so normally patterns are 64 rows, because music is divided into quarter, eighth notes, 16th notes, 32nd notes, 64th notes. At this resolution with 64, each one of these cells is a 16th note. So you can gain more resolution by just doubling the amount of rows and then doubling the BPM. So this beat default BPM is 125. I'm going to double it to 250. but the BPM effectively is still 125. Okay, we have a kick and a snare. Now we're gonna add another kick and a snare, and then another kick and a snare. Yeah, this is literally like Excel. Like I'm just working in a spreadsheet. I just copied that whole pattern over twice. Wow, we just made a beat. All right, so now I'm gonna take that chop. And disclaimer, I may have tested this beforehand to make sure that it worked and sounded good. But I'm gonna now trigger the sample at the beginning of this loop. Okay, so I can tell the sample is a little fast, right? The sample repeats before the end of the loop. So there's a few things you can do, right? Maybe we just need to adjust the BPM up slightly, see if that works. Close, but the sample, they were starting to get a little fast at the end. I'm gonna cut out a little bit more of this part, the before it hits, because like this is where it really starts. So I can get rid of this, and that'll buy me a little bit more speed to move up the BPM to 252. Now I think this will be on time. Extremely close. Now, this is like a pro tip. You can, I don't know if other DAWs let you do this, but if you actually just lower the sample rate, you can do in between semitones. One semitone is about 1,000 to 1,200 hertz. So I just decreased it by 200 hertz. So it's going to play slightly slower, and it should loop properly now. That's pretty much on. And then, I'll start messing with the drums. Like, we don't need that simple ass, maybe I'll do like, boom, boom, so I'm going to switch up the kicks. And then, maybe we can add like a little roll in there. So yeah, so like each of these entries, right? This is instrument 10, C4, right? So each one of these entries in the spreadsheet references one of these instruments over here on the instruments list. Right, so you can start adding a little more flavor, add some more change-ups. So now I'm going to copy over this pattern to the second half. And then maybe we'll have one more kick out here, and then, maybe another double hi-hat for some more pizzazz. And then, yeah, plugins. This software does support VSTs. So like one thing I might do with the sample. Oh yeah, my mixer. I can pick the channel where the sample's on. And then I can apply, like, for example, I have a tube amp that, can fatten the sound a little bit. And then, so we've established a basic loop here. So then I start looking for like other chord changes, right? I can start using to make like change-ups. but I forgot the bass. And so the bass is like pretty much what glues together any beat, in my opinion. I know a lot of you guys probably use 808s, right, as like your main like bass component to your beats. Um, I do use 808 sometimes, but I'm a big fan of just like repeating bass tones that are like sort of in that 808 territory. And let me just pull up one. So yeah, this is just really deep repeating bass tone. I have a bunch of different ones. Most of these I made from bass sounds that I sampled and just like looped them. So like you can take a bass noise and then you can put the selection in a loop. Boom, I have a new bass sound. And then I'm using my keyboard to play it, right? So for this beat,
So you're gonna take out the original one and put that one.
so I don't even do that. So what I do is I usually just play over. It depends on the sample. So like if you look at this sample, pitching up is like your biggest ally when making beats because you can hear bass a lot more clearly. So they don't really have a bass line in this beat. It's just like the two synths, bong, bong. So what I would do is I try to play along with the root note, of the bass line. So that's going to be, boom.
So you're gonna try to harmonize it a little bit.
Yep. But pitching it up can help you ensure that it's not like off out of tune. So a lot of times like bass noises will not exactly be in tune. So I'm gonna intentionally throw this out of tune to show you what I mean. That's still kind of in tune. I'm gonna detune it even more. So you can see it sounds kind of flat, right? So a lot of times with your bass sounds, I pitch it up before I even start working with it just to make sure it's like perfectly tuned with the sample. So I think I had this at maybe like 44,700, maybe 44,300 sounds good. Sounds close. So and you notice how much louder that high bass note sounds? And this command I'm entering here, just a 10 signals cut it off. For some reason in this software, the volume scale goes from 10 to 64. I don't know why, but 10 means 0. So. So yeah, a lot of times what I'll be doing is pitching it up so I can make sure it's the right note because it's hard to hear when it's really low. And then the last thing I'm going to do is, so like your ear perceives bass notes as much louder the higher they're pitched. So what you can do to avoid that effect where like the high bass notes in my bass line were like kind of really sticking out is I'm just applying a simple low pass filter here. And all this is doing is just cutting out the high frequencies of the bass. And again, this is like a very typical plugin you'll find like in pretty much any DAW. But yeah, so that's like a really very, very quick demonstration of like just making like a loop, right, off of like straight off of a record, right? And then so, what I'll probably end up doing with this beat, so that was one pattern that I made. That's just one segment, right? So then, I'll go into my partition list here. So now I created another pattern. So the second pattern will have this part. Yeah, you can see also the timing with this one wasn't quite on either, right? So I might have to go back. Like this one I actually need to chop a little bit earlier. They need a little bit more lead time before the sample triggers, so we'll give them that. But yeah, so that's a really like basic overview how the software works, and like, when I'm done with this beat, I may have used, maybe 3, 4 different sections of the song and like, rearranged it. So, yeah, that's an example of a beat from straight to vinyl. How are we doing on time, by the way?
4:45.
So, yeah, I can show you guys like one more beat, or I can listen to your guys' beats. It's really up to you guys.
Down to show something.
Hell yeah. Yeah, real quick, I'm gonna put you guys on. So I mentioned before, right, that this approach to making beats is fun, but if I were to take this music and then put it online, I would obviously need to get the sample, get permission, right? So Tracklib has been sort of like one of the main sources I use for samples nowadays, primarily because it's like all the same music that I like to sample, but none of the headache. So here's an example of like a Tracklib sample. So I heard that sample and I was like, you know what? I like the progression, but I think they spend a little bit too long on this part. So I took this part and then I used it to basically condense what they played. So this is what my flip of it sounds like. I pitched it up a little bit. So yeah, I essentially like I cut out that part where they were repeating the same chord for like 5 seconds, and I just like essentially condensed it. So yeah, that's an example of how often, you know, the the song that I make from the sample is like significantly like rearranged from how the sample sounds just on its own. And then just muting the sample, this is all the drums and bass that I added to it. So in that case, I was just replaying over the bass line in the sample to just give it like some more depth, right? So in cases where samples have like a really defined bass line, I just play along with it and like make it like meatier, essentially.
Hey, is this stuff on Spotify too?
Yeah, so this is actually on my this is on this album. This is track 3, Unknown Parts, and this is also on Spotify as well. But yeah, this whole album was made from tracklib samples, you know, because this was done through a record label, and so you know they wanted to make sure, you know, obviously that all the material was, you know, clearable, and because smaller indie labels, they don't have the resources to clear samples, whereas like the big labels that I work with, like they'll clear whatever sample. But yeah, that one's out. That one's called Unknown Parts, and then I'll show you one more breakdown of a sample that kind of has like a rearrangement. That phrase. So those two phrases like were separate, and I was like, those would sound dope together. So what I did with that one, sounds like this. So again, that's an example of like a sort of a rearranged melody, which is it's pretty much my favorite thing to do with sampling because it's like they've given you like a, sort of all these different pieces on a silver platter, and you can kind of arrange them together however you want. And then this is the last one I'll show you, and then I'll stay however long you guys want. I'll listen to all your beats if you want. Get more funk kind of music. So I liked the whole thing except for that little like wah, 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 wah. So I was like, that's got to go. So what I did was, and so actually this is coming out next year on an album with a French label. Um, Again, I pitched up the sample a little bit, and then so really all I did was I just took that dun-dun, dun-dun, and I just looped it twice. to cover up the part that I didn't want, right? So yeah, I mean, I view sampling as more like photography compared to like painting, right? Like I'm sort of like a photographer, and I'm looking for like snapshots, that I can like put together into like a collage. I know a lot of you guys compose, and so this method of making music might seem like totally alien to you, but yeah, like the principles I talked about, like in my music lecture, broadly apply. So yeah, I'm happy all you guys came, got to see my process, and yeah. Yeah, so I'll take questions. I'll listen to your guys' beats. Like I don't have to be anywhere, so I'll hang around for a bit.
Sweet. Let's logistics real quick before we do questions and all that. I know some people might have to go. Can we just take a group photo with anyone who wants to be in it? So if you want to be in a photo, come on up here. I'll take the photo, and then we'll do questions, show and tell, all that kind of stuff. We're gonna prioritize the people who typically come to Beats Lab Club first and show them beats, and then if we have time afterwards, anyone else thanks for being here.
Where are we posing?
Let's maybe slide this way with like you, maybe behind your stuff, and can we be like, I don't really want the projector behind us, or let's just turn that off. There's an off button right there, behind you.
Oh.
Behind you, glowing.
Oh,
there we go. Yep. All right, and come on. Some people got to get over here. Okay.
Next to you.
Oh, dude, you're good. Yeah.
I need to be able to do. Yeah, Chance, can you? That's good. That's good. Yeah, this is great. I cannot see you in the back right. Okay, no, we're good. We're good. Wait. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Also, same guy. Go slightly that way. Great. Okay. I can see everyone one more time. 3, 2, 1. Great. Cool. All right.
Hell yeah. Yes, sir.
Question time.
That's how I take notes. Yeah.
Do you still like upload beats to YouTube for people to buy?
Oh yeah, every single day. So yeah, I'm still very active like with grinding as far as like daily content. Every day I post on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube like a breakdown of one of my beats.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll show like I'll actually split it so the melody is on one side and the drums and bass are on the other. And so I'll let the melody play for a little bit and then I'll drop in the drums and bass. I've actually noticed it's been triggering the algorithm like especially on YouTube. Like now I open YouTube, I always have like dozens of comments like on my shorts and stuff. So YouTube is actually, it's been surprising that YouTube is actually one of the most their algorithm has been giving me the most engagement. But yeah, like I post on Soundcloud, I at least try to post like a couple beats a week on Soundcloud. But yeah, like it really is about like uploading and being consistent and as much as you can, And it doesn't have to be perfect. Like a lot of the stuff I upload is just snippets and like, maybe it's just to see what people think of it and you know what I mean? But it's good to use those platforms like SoundCloud and YouTube as a test bed, to see which of your material performs the best before then, you want to professionally release it like on an album, on Spotify or whatever. But yeah, I'm still heavily involved, like posting every day, like on socials and stuff.
How do you feel about BeatStars?
BeatStars, I've been on BeatStars. I had an account for a while and I had maybe like 20, 30 beats on there, but like I never made a single sale through it. I never really tried though. I was just like, let me just put my music on there and see if like people buy it. But I would say like 99% of beat sales I get are just through people contacting me, like through Instagram, usually through Instagram DMs or just like email.
Nice.
But yeah, you have a lot of freedom to sort of set the terms of how you want to license or sell your beats. What I do, because a lot of local rappers, they don't have a big budget, right? And what I frame it as, I'm charging you for a service, and the service is you get the full beat, and it's in wave, full quality, and you get all the individual tracks, like the kicks and the snares and the drums and the bass, and for that service is $150, and you also get like unlimited usage rights. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna like copyright claim you or whatever.
Like an unlimited lease.
Mhm.
Lease would be, yeah.
Yeah, and so the key to that is, and this trips up a lot of people like who try to sell beats, do not use Content ID with YouTube, because what happens is like if you sell a beat to somebody, sometimes they'll like copyright it and they'll put it into Content ID, and then like that person's song with your beat will copyright strike your original beat.
That's crazy.
So I've had that happen to me multiple times where like my own music got copyright striked because somebody made a beat with it and then they entered, or somebody made a song with it and then they put the song into Content ID.
Yeah.
So yeah, Content ID is your enemy if you're selling beats. Just
Okay.
word of caution.
That's good
Yeah.
to know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What was it like producing your first vinyl?
Oh man, it was like it was scary because like I didn't know what to expect. The label, basically I was basically shopping for labels because this is in 2023, and at this point I had already released music with like several independent labels, Hip Dozer in France, Cookie Records in France. There's a lot of like smaller indie labels, and they specifically work with like electronic musicians and like lo-fi beat makers and stuff, and like they put out compilations on Spotify and whatnot. Um, but yeah, I was basically shopping for a company that would like want to put out music and had the capability of doing vinyl. So I ended up talking to this company. Their name's College Music. They actually reached out to me first because they were doing an Apple Music mix series where every month like a different artist would do like an hour exclusive mix on Apple Music. And out of that, the conversation arose. They were like, "Oh, hey, well, we have you. Would you be interested in, doing a project with us?" And I was like, "Yeah, if you guys can do vinyl." And they were like, "Yeah, we can." So that's like kind of how it came about. The advance for the whole album was $5,000. So not life-changing money, but it's enough. It was enough, for me to be like motivated to do it. You know what I mean? And yeah, I pretty much just like from the minute I signed the deal, I just devoted all the beats I was making from like, it was like from October of 20 or 23 to like January of 2021. Like I just intensely just worked all on the beats for the album and pretty much had it finished within a couple months. Sent it to the label, went through a few rounds of, what are we including, what are we not including, and then we got down to the final track list. But overall, like they were very supportive. Like I had complete creative freedom as far as like the artwork and what I wanted to do, sonically. Um, they did tell me they did warn me about Splice. Splice has been causing problems for producers because some of the sample packs have been entered into Content ID, and then like you use Splice thinking it's royalty free, and then boom, you get copyright strike because somebody else like made a beat with that Splice sample and then entered it into Content ID. So it was funny that the label warned me. They were like, "Hey, does this contain any Splice samples?" And I was like, "No, it's all track load." And they're like, "Okay, good." But yeah, I think the biggest thing that I learned was what goes into making a vinyl, because I didn't know that you have to have your music remastered to go on to vinyl. So like because I was thinking about doing it DIY, just like contacting a record company, for like 100 records, it's like $1,500, and you just send them the audio and the artwork and they'll do it for you. But if the music isn't mastered for vinyl, it'll sound really like weird, and it can even cause like skipping, because like the distortion and like the 808s and stuff is not what like record players were designed to handle. So typically your music needs to be remastered before it gets pressed to vinyl. And yeah, I just learned a lot of other stuff about like, just the dimensions of artwork for like a vinyl record, and like the inner label, And so now, like, I have all the knowledge where, like, I could now do it myself, and I don't need a label, because the label, it introduces overhead. The label gets 50% of the royalty, the master recording royalties on that record, right? Whereas if I do it myself and just print it myself, I get 100%, right? So I think it was a good learning experience, but going forward, from what I've learned, now I would just do it myself and like keep more of the money, right? Because the label introduces a lot of overhead, a lot of other people got to get paid, before you do. So you end up just making, anytime you're working with a label, you're taking a smaller cut overall of your music is just what it is. You just have to decide if it's worth that trade-off, Being 100% indie, you can control 100% of the royalties, but then you also have to do everything yourself. So it was nice having a record label sort of hold my hand through the, initial learning curve of how to make a vinyl. So that was probably the most valuable thing. But like sales-wise, like we sold the first run of copies. So I thought we were actually going to sell like way more. I was like, oh yeah, we're going to sell like 5,000 first year easy. Because like I was looking at my Spotify stats and I had like 5,000 super listeners. But especially, in with the economy being the way it is, like less people are spending on entertainment. And so I had to manage my expectations with the sales of the vinyl and realize it's going to take, just like it took with my initial music putting it out, it's going to take time, for the word of mouth to build. Oh, where'd you get that vinyl? Oh man, this is sick. You know what I mean? Like it just takes time for any new venture to sort of like gain steam, whether it's physical releases, digital releases. But yeah, I mean, this is part of like my diversification strategy. So, I'm gonna now start pressing more of like my back catalog items, like my older albums that already have millions of streams. Compare the sales. Maybe the people just want the stuff that they know, right? So yeah, still a lot to learn about it, but it's a very valuable experience for sure.
How come you're so loyal to your DAW that you don't update the Mac?
Oh, because it won't work. Yeah, like the DAW won't work anymore unless I keep the Mac OS at 10.6 or earlier.
Yeah, but you're so loyal to it, like you could just go over to any other DAW, but
yeah,
how or why?
Yeah, it's a good question, man. It's partly just like it works for me, and it kind of has like a signature sound that's hard to describe, but because of the way that it was coded, it introduces like this sort of signature sound. I don't know if you guys have heard of certain drum samplers like the SP1200 or the S2400. These are big in like the 90s, when beat makers are largely using like sampling drum machines. A lot of them just prefer it for the sound. Like J.A. Dilla preferred the MPC 3000 just because it had that specific sound that he liked.
Yeah.
Madlib made a lot of his like classic records like Mad Villainy using like a SP303 by Roland, which is a very, very basic sampler with like a really rudimentary sequencer. So yeah, I mean, to answer your question, it's sort of like the flow just like works with my brain, and like I'm able to prototype beats so fast with it that like my output is just like insane. And it's almost like it adds to the lore by like using such like a weird program.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I've never seen anything like it. That's why
Yeah.
I was so curious. I was like, what?
Yeah, so like at this point it's like I have to like commit to the lore at this point, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Presentation, right? Yeah. You
Mhm.
define what works for you when you're making things. That's what works for you. I feel like that was to be creative.
Mhm.
Just your setup.
Yeah, and like exactly, like I just drilled down on what was working for me.
Yeah.
And like I said, like so this software only runs on old Macs. Like for the production, the machine I was using when I produced all those gold records was a Power Mac G5 tower that I got from a computer recycling place for $80. And that was like my main audio workstation up until like just recently. Like finally something, crapped out on it and it stopped turning on. But like that was an $80 computer that was like my main production computer for from like 2016 till 2023. So yeah, the kind of the benefit is like, yeah, I don't need to buy anything expensive or new to make beats. Like I can go to like a Goodwill and get like a used MacBook and be up and running. Like yeah, I got this used off of eBay for like, I don't know, it was like $200. Yeah.
That's pretty good, man.
But yeah.
Trying to think. I had a question. Like when I went up there, of course I had to check the phone. And but one thing we could keep back.
Be cool.
Yeah, happy to come back anytime, you guys. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember now.
Yeah.
That presentation, like, is that possible to like receive somehow?
Oh yeah. I can just like send it to Adam.
I have it.
Yeah. You have it already. Yeah. So you can send it out to the class. Yeah.
Didn't you say you're gonna put on your YouTube as well?
Yeah. So actually, this is being live streamed currently on Instagram and YouTube. So yeah, this whole talk will be on my YouTube channel as well.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah. If you guys want to play me some beats, I'm all ears. I think this
He
is.
had a question for you really quick.
Oh yeah.
Do you live in Wilmington or just?
Yeah, I live in Wilmington. I moved here in January of 2023, and I actually live like just a few blocks from here. I'm on like Red Cross and 6th.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
so I could like walk here if I wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that's
fancy.
funny. You live right there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Convenient.
the drawing, the main draw to that apartment was it had its own separate office.
Oh,
Because like a lot of my old places, like my setup would be in my bedroom, and I found that actually kind of stifled my creativity a little bit.
It does.
Yeah, having a separate space to work in
Yeah.
actually really helps like creatively.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like just the power of taking a walk. Like if I'm like stuck on a beat, like I'm not getting anywhere. Like I'll just just close the laptop and I'm taking a walk.
Well, we just now figured that out. Like we've been doing that for years, and
Mhm.
we figured out it's actually better to reset than to keep trying to finish what you're actually doing at hand.
Yeah, absolutely.
It really is. Productivity definitely changes.
Yeah, and as somebody who's like fully self-employed, like I actually had to
Yeah.
like consciously like build a routine like for my day to day, because like it's easy to just sit on the couch and scroll on the phone for hours, and like before you know it, it's like 6 p.m. I haven't done anything, you know what I mean? So I really had to get into a routine, like where at like the morning I'm usually checking my DMs, my emails, like business stuff. Afternoon I'll go out and go to the grocery store, like errands, whatever I need to do. Then the evening is like usually when I'm cooking up, because it's like nighttime, less people calling and bothering me. So I kind of have like a nice segmentation,
Yeah.
for my days, where I kind of handle everything. But
You
yeah.
kind of just told me. So how'd you figure that out? Like for someone or like us,
Hmm.
who have a lot going on, school, classes,
Yep.
everyday life. How do we do that? How do we figure out that?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, dude, like, so the majority of my career, like, I was in school, right? So, like, I was in college and then graduate school. I got my PhD in chemistry in 2017, and like like a lot of the work had already been done by that point, right? And it was just because in my free time I was just like dedicated to consistently like putting my music out there and creating, you know what I mean? So yeah, like even when I had like a ton going on, I mean this was crazy. This is like 2017. I'm like writing my thesis, and like my thesis defense is coming up in like a month, and J. Cole is on tour with Ari Lennox,
Yes.
and she's opening up for him, so I have like backstage passes to all the shows, and like they can't I got my PhD from Washington, St. Louis, and like Ari Lennox and Dreamville and J. Cole came to St. Louis, and it was like I'm cooking up with Jid's producer at my my house, freaking it's like 3 a.m. and like we're hotboxing my room. I'm like, dude, you guys, I gotta go to the lab tomorrow morning. Yeah. Yeah, the next morning, I'm fucking, I'm in lab like a zombie, so yeah.
Yeah, that's good, man, because a lot of time when you have so much going on, there's it can defeat your desire
Yep.
to do what you actually enjoy and love to do. So I always try to keep myself abreast and ask different individuals that have been able to break through successfully, really successfully, and still have that love. How did you figure it out? How did you process?
Yeah. Just use your free time, man, and like also having like a accountability partner. Like I had a good homie of mine who's really into hip hop, and he's now actually co-produced a lot of things with me. But like he would like demand, like he'd be like, hey, we making beats tonight, like you know what I mean, like I almost kind of had like a not like a coach, but somebody who was kind of pushing me, right? So that's the power of like collabing and networking. It's because if you have people that want to work with you, that's also motivation, right? So building a network of like-minded individuals, is definitely, you're gonna need other people, besides just you. I rely on so many other people to get different aspects of the business done. I have like artists that I work with for cover art. I have musicians that I've worked with to play different parts for me, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, like, as you're building your network, everybody can have some role, in your music process.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Where did the name come from?
That's a good one.
Yeah. It was just the one that stuck. This is like sophomore year of high school. It was I volunteered to DJ a school dance, and they were like, well, what's your DJ name? And I had been like toying around with a few, and I was like, DJ Grumble, and then that was the one that just stuck, and then everybody just started calling me that from there. But it didn't come from anything in particular. I just needed like
it on the spot. And
I just needed like a DJ name, because I was starting to DJ like school dances and like house parties and stuff in high school, and then it just stuck. Because it's easy to remember too, like Grums, or people would like abbreviate it, like Grum Dog Millionaire, or like Grumble Stiltskin, etc. Yeah.
Must have been smart to think that far.
Anybody want to play a beat?
Beats?
Yeah.
Take it, go for it. Here, I'll grab the chair.
Yeah.
Just turn this off.
Yeah, man. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, man. Hit me up on Instagram or DM me anytime.
If you guys got $40, don't forget to pop that vinyl.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man.
Thanks, man. Hope you again soon.
For sure.
All right, guys. See you next time.
Yeah, this one like 2 days ago.
Okay.
I said you did all that too.
Yep. Like samples.
Yeah. Whenever I do sample, sometimes it's stuff kind of like that. I'm like experimenting with like hyper pop like loops and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Trying those up.
Yep.
Yeah. But I have made some beats kind of similar to yours. Like this one time I sampled Amy Winehouse. It was one of her songs from Back in Black.
Yeah. That's Amy Winehouse has some really good samples. I mean, her band is incredible.
Yeah, for sure.
Don't forget to turn it back on.
Oh yeah.
While he's pulling that up, you were talking about that sampling platform. I can't remember the name of it right off the top of my head, but the one you were recommending.
Oh yeah, tracklib.com.
Tracklib, thank
Yeah.
you. What's the subscription that you recommend for that? Because I've looked at it, stuff
Yeah.
like that, and have kind of shopped it, but I've been sitting on the fence, like which one I should really go for at my current stage.
Right. So for me, I have the unlimited just because I use so many samples. It basically just eliminates the upfront fee. There's like 3 tiers of samples on Tracklib. There's like tier C, which is like $50 the license plus the percentage. Tier B, which is like 100 or something like that, and then tier C, which is like 1,500, or tier A, which is like 1,500. But most of them are C. So I would just get the basic if you're just starting out and maybe only using like a handful. Yeah. But yeah, I will. What I'll do is I'll email Adam like a list of all the resources I talked about, and he can like blast it out to all you guys, like sample packs. I even have my own drum pack that I made. I'll basically link you guys to every sample pack that I'm aware of and that I've used. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, if y'all aren't in the Discord, I do recommend joining that because once he sends that, I can put it in there for sure. Yeah.
No, I like that. Would you say like inspires you as a producer? Okay. Yeah. Good. Yep. 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 Yeah, it's dope. 808s are in P. That's good. Yeah, I like the synth, like little beats, like it gives it like a nice sort of like staccato, like arpeggiated feel. Yeah, yeah, that's dope. Yeah. Oh yeah, and then yeah, when the bass drops out, yeah, let the synth ride. Yeah. 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 Yeah, this is dope. This sounds like a lot of there's a lot of trap producers that I like that are out of like Eastern Europe, but they make a lot of beats like this and they put like Memphis like vocals over them, like funk. Yeah. Yeah.
Also like to transition from like trap drums to
Mhm.
big stuff.
Okay, so it's gonna change up. Was this made with Ableton? Okay. Okay. Yeah. 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 Yeah, it's like kind of like coming in and out. Yeah. Yeah. That's ready. That's ready for an artist. Yeah. You could. You did. You gave it to somebody.
Well, I just put it on.
Oh, okay, got you.
I'm in different discords right now, like discussing with different artists.
Yeah. Got you. Yeah.
I also produce my own music and like mix and master it, put it on all platforms too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. That's what's up. What's your artist name?
Tate Anthony.
Tate Anthony?
Yeah.
I'll have to look it up.
No platforms.
Yeah, you can play as many as you want, man. Yeah, that was dope.
Oh, we're gonna prioritize. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, I could see an artist on that. I know several artists who would be on that.
I think me and Chris been recording this one later.
Yeah. It doesn't really start with. Natural.
On this beat? They showed me it earlier. I was like,
What plugins are you using for all the noises? Sear? Yep.
Yeah, we set a command.
wait, what? Still good?
It's still there.
Okay. It's very ethereal. I can almost see like whole Playboy Party on this. Yeah, like some Cash Party shit.
I'll let Christoph go.
Hell yeah, man. Dope shit.
That's fire.
Mr. Tate.
Yeah,
Is everyone playing something?
I think that we made a little line.
Yeah.
Sweet. Okay, and I guess it's the two of
Wait,
of y'all.
oh yeah, good shit. On Spotify, you said you retain what?
Both of y'all
I'm gonna follow all you guys on
I'm
Spotify.
just trying to see if I have time gap because my dad's here as well, so I'm like,
Gotcha.
I want to show it all.
I know.
Also,
It's the.
yeah.
What's the Spotify name again?
Oh, for sure, and Center.
Gotcha.
Just show it to me one more time.
What's your Spotify?
Oh, for sure, and Center.
L Force.
Yeah.
2007. All right.
Sweet.
I'll check it out.
Followed. Yes, sir. All right, who we got next?
This.
It's Chris.
I'm gonna show 2 beats.
Yeah.
Just
As many as you want, man.
maybe not. I don't know. I have to leave at 6-ish. So.
Oh, that's fine.
Alright.
Yeah. Just a heads up.
I'm
Should be
gonna-
fine.
I'm gonna head out, but
Okay.
You guys
followed your stuff.
yeah, you check it out later.
It's got 10,000 streams on the first one.
Yeah, actually, it was it hit 38K on SoundCloud.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
Wow. Check it out.
Good stuff, bro.
See you, Lawson. Yeah. Come back. Oh.
What genre would you call this?
Just player shit. I guess. I don't know. Something.
Which one's the bell? Oh, it's a part of my producer.
Yeah.
I got that stuff down.
Okay. Yeah. Let's go. Yeah, I was wondering what that sound was. Yeah.
There's a switch up to do. Not really, but like, yeah.
Yeah, it's like when I opened my software card, it looked like fucking.
I was thinking like, okay, how do you see it playing? Like going down?
Yeah.
It.
Yeah.
And then I saw you like, I was slowly figuring it out.
Yeah.
I was like, how did I never seen anything like it?
So do you put these on BeatStars or these like unreleased stuff?
This one is. I got some.
That was
Actually, a lot, but
yeah, I haven't. Like, even being a known producer, I've never had a single sale on BeatStars. I don't know what it is. Yeah.
I think it's like you gotta play to the algorithm. Like you really gotta like beat it.
Right.
I think you have to like pay to even like get your, cause like on BeatStars you search stuff up, like a sponsored beat will come up. And it's
Oh yeah. So
But,
you have to like run the ads on there and shit.
Yeah. But like all the ones that are sponsored, they all just sound like not what you're looking for at all. Just like so generic. You're like, okay, why would I buy this?
Yeah.
Not buying.
It's dude, yeah. BeatStars is so saturated. I think I just got in too late. I got in when it was like oversaturated.
It also just like it just feels outdated. I don't know why. I was using it for a little bit, just like posting beats, and like it wasn't getting anywhere.
Yeah, if I'm just posting beats, I'd much rather use like YouTube or SoundCloud.
Alright, I'm gonna do one more, and this is actually the beat that we rapped on. Me, Cribs, and Tate rapped on.
Okay.
I could show the song, but actually, should we just show the song?
We could.
Alright, hold on.
You want me to send you the updated mix?
Well, I think accountability is a big
Yeah.
thing.
Might be too long. Here.
It's like it's awesome. So Chris, he made it. Okay. So I just reversed it. So like it goes so much harder. Mix producer mix. I know. We're just that might be my favorite.
Yeah. 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 That's a classic like trap sound.
Young Chuck.
Yeah.
Trap alcoholics and whiskey.
Yeah.
Real shit. Damn, so where'd you find this? Yeah.
Make it look easy.
Yeah, so like, dude, I was like around for that era, like when I was actually, you know, people were burning mixtapes.
Yeah.
I used to fucking like play mixtapes in my car on a CD,
Like the Gucci Mane mixtapes. That
Yeah,
had,
yeah.
had the DJ screaming over it.
Yeah.
Chicken talk.
DJ Red.
Yeah, I had one song that I had was actually like placed on one of those DJ Really Well mixtapes back in the day. It was like 2010 or 2011.
All right.
Yeah, I was like heavy on that pitch back.
I love that pick.
It's sad. I'm so sad that they
It's
shut
the thing of the
down.
way. I used to get all
That's dope, man. Good shit. Hell yeah.
I think that one was.
So far, nobody's played a bad beat.
Let's go.
This is just a beat that like I have like a song released on this, but I'm sure I played it.
Okay. That's good.
This also was a sample. I don't know what from because my friend literally just pulled up on me and was like, "Yo, I got this random loop." I think it was called like 1982. That's what I have. That's what the loop was.
We got some West Coast drums. Yo, West Coast slang. Yo, dudes, cappers, you know, like the slam snare sound, like the.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
That's like drill, right?
What?
Drill.
Yeah,
It's called like that stomp.
yeah. Yeah. I don't know what the sound name is, but yeah. Yeah, it's dope.
That's basically it. And
That's
then
like that's like a West Coast kind of bounce.
And then this other one, I sampled "Adult Diversion" by I think the band's like Always. It's like an indie one, but I made it. It's like a fast like rap beat.
Okay.
Which I.
Metro Boomin, fucking Lino Jones type shit.
There's one song by Travis Scott called "Parking Lot." It came out like after I had made this beat, and it was literally like same concept, just like no. It was like same concept though. It was just like a vocal loop, like kind of like just like loops back, and just like him rapping over it, and I was like, that's great.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, what really drives the bass is like gluing the whole track together. That's why like I call the bass the glue, because like you really need it to like bring the drums and the sample together. It's like in between them. So yeah.
And like that 808 roll, that I think that tied together.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, that's dope. Both banging.
Those songs are on my left.
Okay.
Not really.
Like, is it on Spotify? Not yet. Okay. Wait, what's your Spotify?
It's Cribs. CRIBS.
Almighty Cribs.
Yeah, that's the album. That's album number 1.
But yeah, like, you know, so like those kind of samples.
Let's go, man.
Is it CRIBS dollar sign?
No, it should just be straight.
Almighty Cribs is the album.
Yeah, if you look up Almighty.
Almighty. Bow down.
Oh, it's
You
you.
might have dropped
Okay.
that song.
Oh.
Yeah.
You bought it? You better drop it.
Yeah, Cribs, you're already in the top 80% of artists.
Really?
You have more than 50 monthly listeners.
Oh, yeah.
he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy to think of though. Just like
Yeah, that was a crazy
the
stat.
majority of music that gets uploaded on Spotify gets 0 streams. Like nobody ever listens to it.
Yeah.
So like it's so saturated right now. That's the main obstacle. So like it's really about like what about you specifically is gonna like make you stand out from like all the noise, right?
Yeah.
That's the tough part in 2024.
That's why you self-produce, make your own stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like at the level you guys are at, like like you said you just dropped the album and it had those samples in it, right?
Yeah.
Like yeah, for now, like that's cool, you don't have to worry about it. But like if the song does get to like 1 million streams, the person who made the sample might call you up and be like, yo,
where's my money?
We need like half of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is something to be aware of.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of a good problem to have. Like if the song blows up enough that like whoever made the sample is like calling you, but usually like you can get it worked out so that it doesn't get taken down. You work out like a revenue share.
Yeah. There's one underground rapper. This happened like recently. He sampled like Deftones and some other girl. Yeah, Netspin. And like
his whole shit got taken down.
They took down like half his discography.
Dude, yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah, that will burn you, dude.
Yeah.
If you're not cognizant of like with the samples you're using, you can get like burned like that and have your whole shit taken down.
Yeah.
I got Rex now,
Yep.
I guess I can go now. My stuff is completely different.
Okay, that's cool.
I'm trying to get more into like making beats and stuff like that, but I do like electronic beats, like like house.
Hell yeah. I mean, I play that stuff while DJing all the time, so yeah. I like stuff like Fisher, type, like shit like that, yeah. Are you using CFCC? Okay, word. Okay. Shot
so it's like it's just this sample, the original, like this sample. And then from it.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, that's fire, dude.
Thanks, man.
My only suggestion for this one is like some of those fat bass tones that I played. I think it just needs some bass in that frequency range, like a little bit lower frequency, but like the melody and like the drums and bass like hit nice and hard, dude.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, that's dope.
Any others?
Agreed.
Yeah, any others?
I was gonna do one more.
Yeah, good build up too. Like, yeah, proper build. A lot of my beats I just start. It just goes right into the beat. Like,
Yeah.
It just depends. Depends on how I'm feeling.
This is one I made a while ago, but I kind of like it. and I'm hoping on putting this in an album at some point.
Okay. Is the other one out or is?
No, not yet.
Okay. Yeah, that violin sounds amazing. And yeah, that hits hard, dude.
Yeah, I
My
like that.
only suggestion is, yeah, it's like the other guys, like that there's just a little like low end that you're missing to really like make it punch. So yeah, I would try a lot layering like a thick bass or like maybe 808 or something, or even just fucking with your EQ. But yeah, like beef up like the bass frequencies from like maybe like 100 hertz, something like that. But yeah, ask these
Or
guys.
take out the low frequencies in the melody to have that space for the.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, that's really all it's missing. But like sonically, like melodically, and like structure wise, everything's like perfect. As far as like the build up and like the drops and breaks, yeah, dope. Hell yeah, good shit, guys.
Devin, you play anything?
Yeah.
Get up there.
Yeah, I could see those like going like viral on TikTok too. You know, like that kind of high energy music. Like making your music available in like the IG and TikTok libraries.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good idea because then people are using it in their videos. The only thing it doesn't pay, and the streams off of like TikTok don't pay anything.
Did you turn it off?
Like
Yeah, it's on.
200,000 streams on like a TikTok video is worth about like $3. So you don't make any money off of it. Yeah.
Because like it's so common now. Like back when TikTok first started in like 2019, it was like if you hit 1 million, because like when they started doing the dance videos, like you hit 1 million, but then I feel like they got more money back then because now it's just like everybody can go viral.
Yeah, whatever the deal is that they have worked out, like you get like 0.00001 cent per like TikTok stream on a vertical video.
Yeah.
That's the word.
Yeah. Anyways.
Alright, so I don't make beats, I rap and occasionally sing. This is one of the times where I'm singing. This is gonna be the interlude on an album that I'm working on.
Oh yeah, what's your artist name?
Dead Tripping.
Look at love like a view. Everything is a game. Look at love like a game. It's where for your partial to respect you, you have to respect yourself within the same context. You also have to compromise.
You make this beat too?
No, I just pretty much.
Gotcha. So this depth tripping?
Yeah, with no teeth.
I also. Oh, yeah, fair. Yep.
It's just smooth.
Yeah, this is fine. Your voice has like a very like unique and ethereal quality to it. Yeah, you're perfect, like perfectly in tune too. Like, do we have perfect pitch or not? Oh yeah.
When I'm rapping and when I'm off key, I can hear it.
Yeah. Like when you know, yeah.
And then this is one of my like most popular songs.
Okay.
Oh no, not yeah. There's a class that starts at 6, so it's maybe at about 8 to 10, if not sooner.
Every time you play this shit, there's some.
So this is on Apple Music?
Yeah, in Spotify.
Is this worldwide takeoff? The beat has like a rave feel to it, but it's not like over the top, like you know, like the deeper distorted, like how some producers do. And I like it on the beat, it's like clear, you know. Yeah, no, the flow is like very like it's a very effective flow, like. Oops.
I got you.
My bad.
Come on, man.
Yeah, super catchy flow, and like yeah, like the beat. Yeah, the beat feels like it feels like very like up to date. Like you know what I mean? It has like that rage influence, but it's like it also like sonically like well rounded. You know, not like intentionally distorted. Like some of the opium shit is like too over distorted and shit. Yeah, no, that shit was dope. Man.
Appreciate it.
Good job,
Also, if
everyone.
you see Jid, let him know that I am a really big fan. Just be like,
Oh,
I
yeah,
guy
yeah.
who's a really big
Dude, I've
fan.
met everybody on Dreamville. I've met everybody at least besides Cole. Cole is like he's super private.
Yeah, I've heard.
Yeah, like.
Yeah.
Too much more.
Like I've been on the tour bus like with all the Dreamville cats, and J. Cole goes to his own separate tour bus. It's like they're all on one tour bus. J. Cole got his own to himself. I've been on the Dreamville tour bus like what is this part? Yeah.
I used to listen to Art like working on shows. Like I heard it. I used to be on like her IG live and everything.
Okay.
First started out.
So yeah, you heard her like yeah. I just mailed her a copy of the album because I've been sending it out to like all my industry contacts just as a gift / like hey, you know, listen to my beats.
Yeah.
So I sent one to Anderson .Paak, J. Cole, Elite, Iron Linux, like a bunch of industry people. Because it's like something tangible that they can hold and like listen to.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like my strategy, you know, to get more placements and just kind of put my name in their minds, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah. pretty much always grinding in some form or another.
Thanks, man.
Yep.
Really appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, man, no problem.
I'll help you clean up and stuff.
Yep. We gotta get up by what time?
6, so we got 12 minutes.
Oh yeah, we got
So,
time. We're good.
Just a reminder, y'all, we've got the 2 events coming up. Piece of paper if you haven't seen it yet. So next week is kind of our only slowdown week because the following week is our rave. If you want to participate in the rave,
Yeah, can we do anything about that next week?
yeah, we're gonna figure out those details. Let's go ahead and think about that over the next few days. Text me, email me, all that kind of stuff. And then our like showcase is a little bit shorter, but on Monday the 18th. So those are due on the 11th. Okay, end of the day by the Monday the 11th. So if you want, but I would say like shoot for about 8 minutes. Not the rave. The rave, we'll figure that out. I don't think we'll have pre-made sets.
Mini Madness is this month?
Yeah, so I sent an email about that just last week, Monday the 18th, and it's part of the CFCC Music Festival. So it's going to be Monday at 6 p.m. for about 45 to 50 minutes. So again, you don't have to participate in either one of those, but y'all are more than welcome to do either of those. Please invite your friends to both of those events, though. Yeah. The rave, obviously, we'll get to actually dance, which I'm so excited. But then the Mini Madness is more appropriate to like invite like older family members who might not want to dance, but you still want to show your movie. So hopefully we'll have a bigger audience too, because right after our performance is like the jazz band and other CFCC.
Wait, so you guys are having a rave?
Yeah, we're having a rave.
When is it?
It's on the 13th.
Okay.
I'll show it. I'll give you the flyer.
Is it just DJ Grumble on all platforms?
Yep.
Okay.
Every single platform. Yeah, easiest way to reach me is actually email, just because like my DMs are always like so flooded. It's hard for me to like catch up with them. But like I check my email every day, and that's like you can find it on all my socials as well.
Okay, so like on Instagram.
Yeah,
There you go.
it should be. I think it's in my bio.
It is. I just
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah.
I just
come through the main doors.
Oh, yeah.
Ignore the instruction.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, man, I'll definitely come back. You know, if you guys want me to get more in depth on any particular like aspect, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, because like any topic I could probably talk for like hours on.
Yeah.
Like just the topic of sampling or just the topic of, you know, royalty collection or whatever. So
Yes. Yeah. No, you should.
yeah, I should start monetizing that kind of content. Because yeah, a lot of DMs I get, it's like, yo, do you sell courses or blah blah blah.
Who wants the sodas? Anybody?
Great. I don't have nothing.
Right?
You gotta chug it before you walk out of the room.
And then once, can one of y'all grab that coffee mug?
Yeah.
And then, can somebody put the dongle back in the yellow box? And then once he clears this stuff out, can we move the table back and make sure all the chairs are good? So back.
Dongle.
Yeah, that's mine.
11, sir.
These, didn't you?
Yep.
You said they're about 150 a pop.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, and in any given month it varies, but yeah, I'll sell like anywhere from like yeah, that's mine too. Some months I maybe just like a handful of each, some months I might sell like 10, 20, 30. But yeah, I usually that's the number that seems to be in the affordability range for most like independent artists. And like, it's one that I'm willing to bargain down from a bit, because it doesn't take that much time for me to just like export the beat, you know, to the length that they want and like send the files. It's maybe like 10 minutes of work. So, you know, like I'll start with 150, and if they're like, man, like, you know, I really don't have much money, yeah, I'll be like, you know, how's 100 sound, you know, and then or I'll do deals like, you know, if you're looking for like multiple beats, you know, I could do like 3 for 500 or something, like, you know, something that makes sense. But yeah, it makes it easier for me to sell it as a service. Like, here's the high quality files, you know, for this price, because the licensing can get tricky, you know, because you're writing legal contracts and like sending them back and forth. Whereas like just saying like, yeah, you have a global permission to use this beat of mine. You know, like that's just easier, for all parties. That's the way I've done it. It's just, it does get complicated sometimes with like content ID. So that's why I just tell, I tell people like, yeah, just don't enter the song into content ID, right? Because this is a beat that, may be licensed to somebody else. You don't want, you don't want to copyright claim somebody else or vice versa, So yeah, that's the only caveat when selling beats is you got to make sure, you're not enrolling the beats in content ID. Yeah.
I'm pretty interested, so
Yeah.
I guess my best method to reach out to you would be the email, right?
Yeah, just send me, yeah, and like I can give you pointers as far as like, beat sales or how to put yourself out there. Yeah, it's like just find the find the platforms that people are. Find the platforms where people are and just like post all your stuff like just consistently. Yeah.
That's what I'll do.
Yeah.
Thanks for the tips, I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, man.
Okay,
What was your name again?
it's Chance.
Chance.
Yeah.
College.
Oh, it's nice to meet you, yeah.
Yes, sir.
I'm following on social media, I got your vinyl yesterday, so.
Oh, hell yeah, dude.
I'll be keeping an eye out for that thing.
Dude, I appreciate it, man. Thank you for supporting me.
Yeah, I'm hoping to put it on an S2400 a little bit, but.
That's 2400?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll see.
That's a dream piece of equipment for me. I just can't justify like buying another because I already have so many like drum machines and shit. It's like
For me,
I'm buying another drum machine. Yeah.
Been the biggest learning curve for me is trying to learn that thing. It's every year projects.
Yeah. I mean that's how people made beats in the 80s and 90s and shit. Strictly sampling drum machines.
Going on today?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the technology hasn't changed since the 90s. Like,
So those photos?
I haven't downloaded.
Oh, okay.
Well, I did, but I haven't looked at it.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah.
submitted around, yeah.
Just do the photos and then,
Usually somebody submits during class.
yeah, I'm coming now.
Anyway, so it's,
Thanks.
no problem. This last one over is the presentation.
on?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
They were doing some kind of DJ presentation here with these unplugged stuff. So hopefully everything will work. What's everybody doing?
Doing good.
How did we do with our font manipulation this week?
I wasn't able to get to it yet because I usually work on them on Wednesdays.
That's okay. Like I said, I'm going to give you more time. So if you just want to submit that whenever you get done with it, we may take a look at it together next class.
I think I did it. I'm not sure if I did it right, but I enjoyed doing it.
You enjoyed doing it. What did you like about it?
Just utilizing, so I looked at the examples that was provided. I try to, not necessarily mimic, but I try to express what the words was that I chose. I try to express those as much as possible.
Yeah. So we call that a prompt. And so you took the prompt and tried to express it, obviously the best way you could see fit through the font use, which was the purpose of the project. So I'm glad you enjoyed it. Sorry, I'm tying my sheet up. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and I hope that you got I hope it clicked with you, I don't know if it did or not. Obviously, it takes some time. You got to work with the programs more, but manipulating font, you just get better at it over time. So.
And I was trying to utilize different fonts, but I don't know if that was something we were trying to do. But I wanted to find something that kind of fit the characteristic of what words I chose.
Yeah, so that wasn't a requirement, but I did mention it last week that if you felt like there was a font that just spoke to you better for the prompt, then that was fine if you wanted to vary it up. Like I said, it wasn't the main focus of the project. Really, I wanted you to manipulate the font and do some things with the actual letters. But the font typeface that you choose also tell the story. So it's okay if you messed around with it, that's okay. And if you didn't, that's all right too. All right, so let's get started and present some of this. I don't know who else. So Kevin, you didn't have one this week. Sorry, I'm all out of sorts because I got in here later than I normally like to. Josh, let's start with yours, if that's okay.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Pulling up Illustrator, and I'll share it in just a minute. All right, we're missing a font. Looks like enable auto activate. See if it gets it.
We're supposed to do 4, right?
Yep. What is this font? It's like Broadway. I don't think you outlined your fonts before you uploaded it, which is not the end of the world, but let's see if I can highlight that font. Remember how last week I was telling y'all about how if you don't outline your fonts, then your end client may not see the design the same way that you see it if they don't have the font. That's what the problem we're running into here, which I'm not holding against you at all because you're just learning this. But
okay, you won't show it at the end of the course or end of the class tonight how to outline them.
Yeah, so Let me see if this will do it. Yes, I will. I will gladly do that.
Awesome, thank you.
I'll also show you, like, I think the best thing going forward with everybody, because some people are submitting their files with as Illustrator files, and some people are doing PDFs, and some people are doing JPEGs. Going forward, if everybody would export their projects each week as PDFs, it will make it easier for me to present, because the PDF kind of like embeds everything you need in it, whereas Illustrator, there are things like this that happen, then you're gonna have issues with it. Let me see if this is, first of all, let me share. And I'll show you how to export as a PDF tonight too, okay?
I could have saved it as a PDF, that's my fault.
Yeah, there's some settings though that I want you to know about that may be helpful. So I'll show you, we'll go through that. We do. So.
Whoa, that is not.
Yeah. So whenever the font is pink like this, that means it doesn't have the font, okay?
You want me to send you? I can just send you I can convert it over to a PDF and send it to you.
Yeah, if you want to do that, then we'll know exactly, like, it should embed it.
Yeah, sorry about week 2 of doing this.
No, it's okay. No, like I said, I'm not holding this against you at all, and it did not have in the instructions exactly how to export or whatever. So, yeah, if you just want to send it to me. Are you submitting it on Canvas, or are you emailing it to me?
I'll email it to you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and what it'll ask you when you don't have a font is it'll ask you if you want to substitute, and it'll give you like a suggested font to substitute with. It usually is not anything like the font that was there, but it'll also tell you what the font is, so you can go and find the font and install it on your computer, whatever. It just adds an extra step, and if you're submitting this to someone who doesn't know how to do that, then you could run the risk of someone presenting your design with a different font than you intended. So. Yeah, just let me know when you send that to me, Josh. Let's see here. Carmen's not here. It's not here. How's that here? Kevin didn't have it. In the meantime, let me move on to somebody else, I guess, and we'll come back to you, Josh. Hey, there you are. All right.
I just sent it just now.
Okay, cool. Well, they'll stay. With you. Josh, we'll come back to you when I get it. Aurelia, are you ready to present yours? Yeah. All right. Also, you're running into the same problem.
It wasn't like that.
Yeah. So 3 of them we have the fonts for. We'll talk about these 3 and then we'll discuss like the other one. So the issue, Josh is running into the same problem. Let me make sure I'm sharing here.
Why did that happen?
So the reason this happened, remember when I talked last week about outlining your letters?
I forgot to outline those.
Yeah, so if you don't do that and you send the file off and the person doesn't have the font on their computer, it can't see the font file.
Yes, at least I don't have the problem with the other ones. So.
Yeah, so we'll just talk about it now with the 3 that you have, and we'll talk about that the additional one later. So tell me about, like, how did you find the process? Did it make sense using the fonts?
Yes.
Like, it looks like you were able to complete the assignment the way I assume wanted to. These look good. Yeah. of tell me about like
Well, I enjoyed it.
you like
Yeah, I liked it because I mean I'm learning. You know, whenever we have these assignments, it helps me like find out ways to do the things that I have in my mind. You know.
yeah. That's the purpose of these tools. It's just like using a pencil to draw what you see in your brain. Using the Illustrator to express that. So, talk me through the three here that aren't that have the font with them.
Okay, so I don't really know how like to explain what I picture in my mind. So I just put the traffic and I just think about, you know, being in the street and having a lot of cars and all that stuff. So I put the traffic and then jam like everybody together, like all the cars there. So
yeah.
And I did use the Anthem regular for traffic, and for jam I use medium variable concept.
Yeah.
So
it looks like you did outlines on these because you altered them. This one's still not outlined. You can tell what you put on it, but I have that font on this computer, so
I wanted to keep it like that. So I wanted to keep it together and then the jam just all of everywhere.
Yeah, it's a good because there's order to the traffic and then the jam has got a chaos to it. So you're playing with space too. You're using all the space in there to create like it's claustrophobic in a way, right? It's tight, like it's like it is traffic jams. That's good.
And the happy, I know yellow is like happiness. I didn't know, but my daughter loves yellow, so I'm like, okay, so
yellow is associated with happiness.
Happiness, so I put yellow with that word.
Yeah, this is an interesting. Let's see what this font is.
It's a Rick shaded light.
Yeah. It's probably got some other versions online that you can probably pick up that have different interpolations of that. But it's interesting to have the negative space in it. It looks like light in a way, so that is associated with like warmth and happiness. So. And
the forward, backwards. It did look really nice. I liked it how it looked the black and white.
Yeah.
That was behind it. The one that says backwards. It was like completely centered.
Yeah.
On top of forward, and it was behind. It looks really nice. I really like that word used in black and white.
Yeah. The only reason it's off is because it's using different fonts. I'll take a look at it when I have my computer that I work on at the school. It automatically updates all these, but I think this one has security issues on it, so it won't let it do that. But I'll review it and give some feedback.
And I cannot see the one that I use. It does say it right there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you can put it on.
It says the forward is Cascadia.
Yeah.
5-point stroke.
Yeah.
And then the other one is the same, but it's extra light.
Okay. Yeah. So you're using two in the same family.
Two in the same family, but one is light and the other one is.
Yeah. So you understand like the using fonts in the same family then, and having the lighter one gives it like a different meaning than doing the heavier one, right? So yeah.
And on this one, I couldn't see the name of the font.
Okay.
After I had.
After you had
Yeah. I couldn't find it.
You didn't know what font you
Is there a way to find that? Like the other ones I wasn't.
Yeah. So remember I showed you on what the font on myfonts.com. So the site on myfonts.com, you can go to what the font and you can submit a screenshot of a font and it will try to identify the letters. So yeah, I've done that before where I like did someone's logo, created outlines out of it, and then I couldn't remember what the font was, and I've had to do that reverse image searches. So yeah, you should be able to look that up though. So it's a pretty distinctive font there. So you got the whirligig. It evokes spinning and air, and yeah, it's nice. So you altered each letter, rotation, created outlines, rotated the letters.
What I did, I put the pencil over there. It says that you make a line. The one on the top, that one.
Here, yeah.
I had to make a line first, and then put my letters. That way it was gonna be like.
Yeah. So did you manually put the letters on that?
No, I put the line, and then when you do the letters, it
Did you do-
follows your outline.
Did you do type on a path?
No, it just does it automatically. Oh, yeah, type on the
Type
path.
on the path.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'm gonna show how, because next week you're probably gonna want to do some typing on path. That's a good use of the tools, like exploring tools.
That's what I did, but the path that I have made was not as I wanted it, so I did move the letters a little bit
You
more
manually
after
adjust it,
that.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's good. Yeah, it's effective. Yeah, it's what she's talking about is there's this if you, I don't know if those of you online, so I won't show you when I'm hovering over things. If you hover over the if you do the drop down off the type tool in the left,